Hello everyone, this is a brief presentation going over nutrition intervention for children with autism spectrum disorder. My name is Kara Waters and I am the program coordinator for this study, and Dr. Heewon L is the principal investigator and assistant professor in nutrition and dietetics at the University of South Florida in Tampa. I'd like to go over a brief funding disclosure. So this research study is funded by the National Institute of Health and the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. Here is an outline of what we will be going over in this presentation: the background, the description of the study, the timeline, the assessments that the parent and child will be taking, and the compensation for the study. Please take a moment to look over this graph. This is showing how 1 in 44 children in the U.S. have been identified with autism spectrum disorder. This is from the CDC, and as we can see, it has drastically increased since 2000. Children with ASD are at a higher chance of becoming obese compared to children that are not autistic. This chart shows the percentage of children from 2 to 5 years who are overweight or obese. Almost 50% of these children are overweight or obese, which is about 15% higher compared to the general population of children. So in terms of eating behaviors, it is well documented that children with autism show problematic eating or mealtime behaviors. And from studies that Dr. Gray have worked on and conducted, they show that problematic mealtime behaviors among children with ASD from the ages of 2 to 17 were found significantly higher problematic behaviors in children than typically developing children. For example, 74% of the participants reported that their child with autism resisted trying new foods, and that 97% said that their child avoided certain foods, and 64% considered their children to be picky eaters. So children with autism tend to consume few fruit and vegetables and tend to have excess calories from a lot of high energy dense foods like sugar sweetened beverages and other really processed foods and snacks. And this contributes to increased rates of obesity and other dietary related diseases. So sadly, even with these common, dietary concerns and challenges, children with autism are typically not referred to nutritionists or dietitians until after they're diagnosed with feeding disorders or obesity, which can be prevented early on with early intervention. And many parents of children with autism are sadly misinformed about nutrition, and they use special diets such as gluten-free, casein-free diet that's actually not proven to be beneficial for individuals with autism unless children actually have celiac disease or food allergies. So early intervention is important because it builds a healthy foundation for life. So here are our research questions. Is it acceptable for parents to have a nutrition intervention through early step services? And then, does a nutrition intervention improve dietary intake and mealtime behaviors of children with autism? So this is a layout of our study design. So it is a randomized controlled trial, and what that means is that you and your child will be randomly assigned to either of these interventions. And we're going to be comparing these two interventions. So the first one is Autism Eats, and the second one is We Can. So based on our background and our research, we have developed a nutrition education intervention for children with ASD who participate in the early intervention services. And we have done this by incorporating evidence-based feeding strategies and guidelines from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Pediatric Nutritional Care Manual, in addition to the social cognitive theory for behavior change, which just takes into account how a person's environment and their behavior all interacts together. And this is what the manual for the provider, the early steps provider, and what the handbook for the Early Steps Parent look like, and it is titled Nutrition Intervention to Promote Healthy Eating Among Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder. So the other intervention that you may be placed in is We Can program, and that stands for Ways to Enhance Children's Activity and Nutrition. This is an already existing evidence-based program, and parents will receive handout resources to help encourage healthy eating. The overall goal for the nutrition interventions are to promote healthy eating behaviors and to maintain health and well-being among children. So here's a little timeline of our study. So it's going to be from start to finish 5 to 6 months. So looking to the far left at the end of the arrow, we're going to enroll the parent-child with autism dyads, so just the parent and child together, and we will conduct a baseline assessment. And then you will be placed into one of the two groups, so it's randomized. The third step, program implementation, will last for 10 weeks, so it will be the Autism Eats or We Can, which will last for 10 weeks. And then once that is complete, at the end of the 10 weeks, you will have a post-intervention assessment, and then 2 booster sessions, each a month apart after the 10 weeks. So 1 month after the 10 weeks, you'll have 1 booster session, and then the next one you'll have the second booster session. And then the last is a follow-up assessment at 5 months from the original baseline assessment. So there's 3 major assessment points: your baseline, post-intervention, and then follow-up. So it's really important to understand and to know that you are not just, voluntarily enrolling for the study, but also for the activities around the intervention studies. So as discussed on the last slide, the 3 major assessments. So these are the activities that the parent and child will be participating in. So as we mentioned, you'll be randomly assigned into either Autism Eats or We Can, and you'll be participating in those weekly for 10 weeks, so 2.5 months. And then you'll have 3 rounds of assessments during and after the 10 weeks. And these assessments, the baseline, the post-intervention, and then the follow-up assessment, will consist of these types of surveys, food records, and height and weight. So the surveys are online. There's a 3-day food record, which you will talk with a graduate research assistant, and you will also be getting your height and weight taken and your child's height and weight taken, and an exit interview. So we are going to go into a little bit more detail on these assessments in the next 3 slides. So this is just a brief overview. The first assessment is a baseline, and that's where we will do your dietary intake. So it's a 3-day food record where you'll have a virtual phone interview with one of the graduate research assistants collecting that information, and then these 3 online surveys. So it's a feeding and mealtime behavior question, demographics, and health conditions, and a height and weight for both the child and parent taken at home. The second assessment is after the actual study, the intervention study, and that's your post-intervention assessment, so after the 2.5 months. And that's where we will, again, take your dietary intake, which is the 3-day food record, and then it'll be a virtual phone interview. And then you'll just have 1 online survey, which is the mealtime behavior questions. And lastly, the third assessment, the 5-month follow-up, and that's 5 months from when you originally enrolled and took the baseline assessment. And that is where we will once again dietary intake, the 3-day food record. You will complete, 1 online survey, the feeding and mealtime behavior questions. We will take your height and weight at home of both you and your child, and then you'll have an exit interview. And this is the compensation piece. So for completing the baseline assessment, you receive a $50 gift card. The post-intervention assessment, when that's completed, so after the intervention is done, after that 10-week period, $60 gift card. And then After the 5-month follow-up assessment, so from baseline until the very end, that's a $70 gift card, and then for completing the exit interview, a $50 gift card. So the total amount you will be receiving for participating in one of these 2 interventions and in this study is $230. Thank you. Please contact the Autism Spectrum Disorder Nutrition Study at nutritionstudy@usf.edu, where you can reach myself or Dr. Gray and anyone from our research team. And have a great day.